The evidence against Victor had been damning, and the fallout from the conference was swift. Within days, an official investigation was launched, and Victor's empire began to crumble. But amid the chaos of victory, Julia and James faced an unexpected setback. One evening, as Julia was working late in her office, she received a call from James. His voice was tense, laced with urgency. "Julia, we have a problem. Meet me at the office immediately." When she arrived, James was pacing, his usual composure replaced by palpable anxiety. He handed her a folder. "I just received this. It's a subpoena. They're investigating us now." Julia's heart sank as she skimmed the documents. "But why? We've done nothing wrong. We've been transparent." James's jaw tightened. "It's Victor's last-ditch effort. He's using his connections to drag us down with him. If he goes down, he wants to take us with him." The next few days were a whirlwind of legal meetings and frantic strategizing. The investigation was thorough, probing into every corner of their business dealings. The media, always hungry for scandal, swarmed, casting a shadow over their hard-earned reputations. One morning, as Julia entered the office, she found a group of employees huddled, their faces etched with concern. Whispers of doubt and fear filled the air. She knew morale was at an all-time low, and the weight of leadership pressed heavily on her shoulders. Determined to address the growing unrest, Julia called for an all-hands meeting. She stood before her team, the gravity of the situation clear in her eyes. "I know these are challenging times. The allegations against us are serious, but I want you all to know we have done nothing wrong. We have always operated with integrity, and we will prove our innocence." James joined her at the front, his voice steady and resolute. "We stand by our actions. This is a smear campaign, and we will fight it with everything we have. We need your support now more than ever." The room was silent, the tension thick. Then, slowly, one by one, the employees began to nod, their faith in Julia and James reaffirmed. It was a small victory, but a crucial one. As the investigation continued, Julia and James spent countless hours with their legal team, preparing for an endless series of interrogations and depositions. The stress was immense, but their resolve never wavered. Late one night, after a particularly grueling session, they found themselves alone in the office. The city lights twinkled outside, a stark contrast to the turmoil within. "James," Julia said softly, breaking the silence, "do you ever wonder if it's worth it? All this fighting, all the stress." James looked at her, his eyes reflecting the same exhaustion she felt. "Every day. But then I think about everything we've built, everything we've fought for. And I know it is." Julia nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support. "I couldn't have done this without you." He smiled, a rare, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "And I couldn't have done it without you." Their shared moment was interrupted by the buzz of Julia's phone. It was a message from their lawyer. "We've got a breakthrough. New evidence has come to light. It might be enough to clear your names." Julia read the message aloud, a sense of cautious optimism filling the room. Maybe there's hope after all. The days that followed were a blur of legal maneuvers and strategic decisions. The new evidence proved to be a game-changer, casting doubt on the validity of the allegations against them. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn in their favor. Finally, the day came when the investigation was officially closed. The charges against Julia and James were dropped, their names cleared. The relief was overwhelming, a heavy burden lifted from their shoulders. As they stood outside the courthouse, the sun shining brightly above, Julia turned to James, her eyes filled with gratitude and determination. "We did it. We actually did it." James smiled, a sense of triumph in his gaze. "Yes, we did, and we came out stronger on the other side." Their victory was hard-earned, a testament to their resilience and integrity. The fall of Victor had come at a great cost, but it had also forged an unbreakable bond between them. They had faced the storm together and emerged not just as partners, but as true allies. As they walked away from the courthouse, side by side, they knew that their journey was far from over. But with their trust in each other reaffirmed and their commitment to their principles unwavering, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would continue to build a future defined by honesty, integrity, and unshakable resolve. The storm had passed, but the scars remained. Julia and James had cleared their names, but the experience had left them both deeply changed. It was time to confront their personal demons and find a path to redemption, not just in the eyes of the world, but for themselves. One evening, Julia sat alone in her apartment, the dim light casting shadows on the walls. She stared at an old family photograph, memories of her humble beginnings flooding back. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Proud of you, my dear. Come visit us soon." The message was a bittersweet reminder of the sacrifices her family had made for her success. She realized she had been so consumed by her career that she had neglected the very people who had supported her unconditionally. Determined to reconnect, Julia booked a flight to her hometown. As she arrived at her parents' modest house, the familiar scent of home-cooked meals and the sound of laughter welcomed her. Her mother embraced her tightly, her eyes filled with pride and relief. "Julia, it's been too long," her mother said, holding her at arm's length. "We've missed you." Julia felt a lump in her throat. "I've missed you too, Mom. I'm sorry I haven't been around much." Her father joined them, his gruff exterior softening as he pulled her into a bear hug. "You're here now, and that's what matters." Over the next few days, Julia immersed herself in the simple joys of home. She helped her mother in the kitchen, took long walks with her father, and reconnected with old friends. The weight of the past months began to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and clarity. Meanwhile, James was on his own journey of redemption. He had always kept his personal life separate from his professional world, but the recent turmoil had made him realize how isolated he had become. Determined to change, he reached out to his estranged father. They met at a quiet park, the air heavy with unspoken words. James's father, a stern and distant man, looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Why now, James?" his father asked, breaking the silence. "After all these years, why reach out?" James took a deep breath, the words he had rehearsed in his mind spilling out. "Because I've realized that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. I want to understand you, Dad. I want to know why you were the way you were and see if we can find some common ground." His father sighed, the lines on his face deepening. "I was hard on you because I wanted you to be strong. I thought that if I pushed you, you'd achieve greatness. But I see now that I pushed you away instead." For the first time, James saw vulnerability in his father's eyes. It was a small crack in the armor, but it was enough. They talked for hours, sharing stories, regrets, and hopes for the future. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start. Back in the city, Julia and James reconnected, sharing their experiences and the insights they had gained. The bond between them had deepened, not just as business partners, but as individuals who had faced their own darkness and emerged stronger. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of James's apartment, looking out over the city, Julia turned to him, her eyes reflecting the city lights. "James, do you ever think about what's next? Now that we've cleared our names and faced our pasts?" James nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I do. I think it's time to redefine what success means for us. To build something that reflects not just our ambitions, but our values." Julia smiled, a sense of calm and determination in her heart. "I couldn't agree more. Let's create a legacy we're proud of, one that stands for integrity, trust, and resilience." They clinked their glasses, a silent toast to their future. As they sat there, side by side, they knew that their journey was far from over. But with each other's support and the lessons they had learned, they were ready to face whatever came next. The road to redemption was long and winding, but Julia and James had found their way back to themselves and each other. And as the stars twinkled above, they knew that the best was yet to come. With their reputations restored and personal demons confronted, Julia and James felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were determined to steer their companies toward a brighter future. But the path ahead required bold decisions and calculated risks. One morning, as Julia sat in her office reviewing market trends, James walked in, a spark of excitement in his eyes. He held a folder filled with charts and projections. "Julia, I think I found our next big move," he said, setting the folder on her desk. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it?" James opened the folder, revealing plans for a groundbreaking new venture, a green energy initiative that promised both financial returns and environmental benefits. It was a departure from their usual investments, but one that aligned perfectly with their new vision. "I know it's risky," James admitted, "but the potential impact is huge, not just for us, but for the world." Julia studied the projections, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. The venture would require significant investment and a shift in their current strategies, but it also had the potential to set a new standard in the industry. "This is ambitious," she said thoughtfully, "but I like it. Feels right." James nodded, his expression resolute. "I've already started reaching out to potential partners and investors. The response has been positive so far, but we need to be all in." Julia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision. "Then let's do it. Let's take this risk and make a difference." They spent the next few weeks meticulously planning every detail, from securing funding to assembling a team of experts in green technology. Their enthusiasm was contagious, spreading through their companies and inspiring their employees. The launch event was held at a sleek, modern venue, with industry leaders, journalists, and investors in attendance. Julia and James stood before the crowd, their confidence bolstered by months of preparation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Julia began, her voice clear and passionate, "we are proud to introduce our latest venture, a green energy initiative that will revolutionize our industry. This project represents not just an investment in technology, but an investment in our future." James continued, his tone equally compelling. "We've always believed in pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo. This initiative is a testament to our commitment to innovation and sustainability. We invite you to join us on this journey and help us create a better, brighter world." The response was overwhelmingly positive, with applause and nods of approval echoing through the room. Investors lined up to express their interest, and media coverage painted the venture as a bold, visionary step forward. As the event concluded, Julia and James shared a quiet moment backstage, reflecting on how far they had come. "We did it," Julia said, a smile spreading across her face. "We really did it." James returned her smile, a sense of accomplishment in his eyes. "Yes, we did. And this is just the beginning." Their calculated risk had paid off, setting the stage for a new era of growth and innovation. But it was more than just a business triumph. It was a validation of their values and vision. As the weeks turned into months, the Green Energy Initiative flourished, attracting talent and investment from all corners of the industry. Julia and James worked tirelessly, their partnership stronger than ever. They faced challenges head-on, adapting and evolving as needed. One evening, as they reviewed the latest progress reports, Julia looked at James, her expression thoughtful. "You know, this venture has changed us. It's not just about the business anymore. It's about making a real impact." James nodded, his gaze steady. "I agree, and it's made me realize that the greatest risks are often the most rewarding." Julia smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "Here's to more calculated risks, then, and to building a legacy we can be proud of." They clinked their glasses, toasting to their shared vision and the future they were shaping together. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but they faced it with unwavering resolve and a belief in the power of taking bold, calculated risks. As they watched the city lights flicker outside their office window, Julia and James knew that their greatest achievements were yet to come. And with each step forward, they were proving that true success was measured not just by profit, but by the positive change they could create in the world. The Green Energy Initiative was a resounding success. Julia and James had achieved something remarkable, not only for their companies but for the industry as a whole. The project garnered widespread acclaim, attracting media attention and setting a new standard for corporate responsibility. Yet, despite the triumph, not everything was as it seemed. One afternoon, Julia received a call from a close friend in the finance world. Her friend's voice was tense. "Julia, there's something you need to know. I've heard rumors about a hostile takeover targeting your company." Julia's heart raced as she processed the information. She knew that their success had undoubtedly attracted attention, but she hadn't anticipated this level of threat. She immediately called James, who was equally stunned. "Who would do this?" James asked, his voice laced with frustration. Julia's mind raced. "It could be anyone threatened by our success. We've disrupted the industry, and now someone wants to take us down." They quickly organized a strategy meeting with their top advisors. As they delved into the details, it became clear that the takeover attempt was well coordinated and backed by significant resources. Over the following weeks, Julia and James worked tirelessly to fend off the threat. They reached out to their allies, rallied support from their investors, and explored every possible avenue to protect their companies. The pressure was immense, but they refused to back down. Late one night, as they pored over documents in James's office, the exhaustion was palpable. Julia looked up from her papers, her eyes meeting James's. "We can't let them win, James. We've worked too hard for this." James nodded, his expression resolute. "I know. We won't let them take everything we've built." The days turned into a blur of negotiations, counteroffers, and late-night strategy sessions. The stress took its toll, but their determination never wavered. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they managed to turn the tide. Their allies came through, providing the support needed to thwart the takeover attempt. The announcement came on a sunny morning. Julia and James stood before their employees, the relief evident on their faces. "We did it," Julia said, her voice filled with emotion. "We fought back and won. This victory is ours, but it wasn't easy. It came at a great cost. James stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the room. This experience has shown us the importance of unity and resilience. We've faced incredible challenges, and we've come out stronger. But we must remain vigilant and continue to uphold the values that brought us here. The room erupted in applause, a mixture of relief and celebration. Julia and James exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had endured together. As the day turned into evening, they found themselves alone on the rooftop, looking out over the city. The weight of the recent weeks began to lift, replaced by a sense of bittersweet accomplishment. "We won," Julia said softly, her voice tinged with both triumph and weariness. James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Yes, we did, but it cost us. We've lost some good people along the way, and we've had to make sacrifices." Julia sighed, feeling the truth of his words. "I know. It's a reminder that success often comes with a price. But we've also gained something invaluable, a deeper understanding of what truly matters." James looked at her, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "And what is that, Julia?" She smiled back, a sense of peace washing over her. "Trust, resilience, and the knowledge that we can face anything together." They stood in silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling below. The victory was bittersweet, but it had also strengthened their bond and reinforced their commitment to their shared vision. As they prepared to leave, James reached out, taking Julia's hand. "Whatever comes next, we face it together, no matter how difficult." Julia squeezed his hand, her heart full. Together, always. The challenges they had faced had tested their limits, but they had emerged stronger and more united than ever. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that their greatest victories were still to come, built on a foundation of trust, resilience, and unwavering support for one another. The hostile takeover had been averted, and Julia and James stood stronger than ever. But the ordeal had left them both contemplating the future with a renewed sense of clarity. It was time to redefine their path, to begin anew with the lessons they had learned. One crisp autumn morning, Julia and James met at their favorite cafe, the place where many of their important discussions had taken place. The air was filled with the scent of fresh coffee and baked goods, a comforting backdrop to the conversation ahead. James took a sip of his coffee, his eyes thoughtful. "Julia, I've been thinking a lot about what we want for the future. We've achieved so much, but I believe there's more we can do differently." Julia nodded, feeling the same stirring sense of possibility. "I agree. We've built something incredible, but it's time to evolve, to create a legacy that goes beyond profits and market share." They discussed their ideas, letting their vision for the future take shape. They wanted to create a company that was not only successful but also socially responsible, a force for positive change in the world. They envisioned initiatives focused on sustainability, community development, and ethical business practices. "Let's start with a new division," Julia suggested, her eyes bright with enthusiasm, "one dedicated to social innovation. We can partner with nonprofits, support small businesses, and invest in projects that benefit society." James smiled, his excitement mirroring hers. "I love it, and we can set up a foundation to manage these initiatives, ensuring they're impactful and sustainable." Their plans began to take shape, fueled by a shared passion for making a difference. They decided to host a launch event to announce their new direction, inviting partners, investors, and community leaders to join them. The night of the event arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The venue was beautifully decorated, a testament to the significance of the occasion. Julia and James took the stage, their confidence and excitement palpable. "Good evening, everyone," Julia began, her voice strong and clear. "Tonight, we're not just celebrating our past successes. We're looking toward the future, a future where business and social responsibility go hand in hand." James continued, his tone equally inspiring. "We believe that companies have a duty to give back, to support the communities that support them. That's why we're proud to introduce our new division and foundation, dedicated to driving positive change and fostering innovation." The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, the energy in the room buzzing with approval. As the night progressed, conversations flowed, and new partnerships began to form. Julia and James moved through the crowd, engaging with their guests and sharing their vision. They felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing they were embarking on a journey that would make a real difference. Later, as the event wound down, Julia and James found a quiet corner to reflect on the evening. The excitement in their eyes was tempered by a profound sense of purpose. "We've come a long way," Julia said softly, her gaze meeting James's. "And there's so much more we can achieve together." James nodded, his expression full of determination. "Absolutely. This is just the beginning. we have the power to create something truly meaningful. They stood together, united by their shared vision and commitment. The road ahead was filled with challenges and opportunities, but they were ready to face it all, side by side. As they left the venue, the night air was crisp and filled with promise. Julia and James knew that they had embarked on a new chapter, one that would define their legacy and shape the future in ways they had only dreamed of. Their journey had taught them the value of resilience, trust, and the importance of giving back. And as they walked into the future, they carried with them the knowledge that true success was measured not just by what they achieved, but by the positive impact they made on the world around them. Together, they would build a brighter, more inclusive future, driven by their unwavering commitment to innovation, integrity, and compassion. It was a new beginning, and the possibilities were endless. The new direction for their companies had been set, and Julia and James were committed to creating a lasting legacy. But beyond the professional successes and accolades, the most profound change was in their personal bond. One evening, as the city buzzed with the energy of a new year, Julia and James found themselves at a quiet rooftop garden, a hidden oasis above the bustling streets. The sky was clear, and the stars shone brightly, casting a soft glow over the garden. Julia leaned against the railing, looking out over the city. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. James joined her, his eyes scanning the horizon. "All the time. It's incredible to think about everything we've accomplished together." Julia turned to him, a smile playing on her lips. "And everything we've overcome. We've faced so many challenges, but we've always come out stronger." James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Because we've had each other. That's made all the difference." Their journey had not been an easy one. They had faced betrayals, ethical dilemmas, and immense pressure. But through it all, their partnership had grown stronger, evolving from a professional alliance into a deep, enduring connection. "Do you remember the first time we met?" Julia asked, a hint of nostalgia in her voice. James chuckled. "How could I forget? You were fierce and determined, ready to take on the world. I knew from that moment that you were someone special." Julia smiled, the memory vivid in her mind. "And you were intimidating and enigmatic. I couldn't quite figure you out, but I respected you." James reached out, taking her hand in his. "We've come a long way since then, and I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge, every setback, it brought us to where we are now." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history settling around them. The future was uncertain, but they faced it with a sense of calm and confidence, knowing they had each other's backs. Julia squeezed his hand, her voice soft. "Thank you, James, for everything, for believing in me, for standing by me, for being my partner in every sense of the word." James looked at her, his eyes filled with warmth. "Thank you, Julia, for your strength, your integrity, and your unwavering support. I couldn't have asked for a better partner." As they stood there, hand in hand, the city below them seemed to fade away, leaving only the quiet serenity of the garden and the stars above. Their connection was more than just a partnership. It was a bond forged through shared experiences, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of one another. "To enduring connections," James said, raising an imaginary toast. Julia smiled, echoing his sentiment. To enduring connections. Their journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new opportunities, and new adventures. But they faced the future with a sense of hope and excitement, knowing they could handle whatever came their way. As the night wore on, they talked about their dreams and aspirations, the legacy they wanted to leave behind, and the impact they hoped to make. They were not just building a business. They were building a future filled with possibility and promise. And as the first light of dawn began to break, casting a golden glow over the city, Julia and James knew that their greatest achievements were still ahead of them. Together, they would continue to strive for excellence, driven by their shared vision and their enduring connection. For in the end, it wasn't just about the success they had achieved, but about the journey they had taken together, the lessons they had learned, and the bond they had forged. And with that bond, they were ready to face whatever the future held, side by side, as partners and as friends.